Hi, everybody. It's Dale Walsh, the Poetic Warrior. Welcome to today's episode of Straight Sane and Sober. Thank you for joining us. And today I'm very honored to have Vickie Jo, who's a mental health warrior, and she's been dealing with hospitals and everything, which she relates in her book called My Sanity Quest: Tears, Tears, Trials and Triumphs. And she's a very talented lady, and she's been sort of like worked over by the mental health system. And I'm glad to be able to set this record straight about you today, Vickie Jo. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. And let me just do this, and then we'll get to the show. Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to the show. As usual, because I'm the poetic warrior, I'm going to read a poem, and this one actually hasn't even been transcribed into the computer because I wrote it in Lake Tahoe, California/Nevada, in the United States, which is the highest alpine lake in the United States, and it's like a very big lake. And so I had a vacation there, well, a weekend vacation at the beginning of May, and it got my inspirational juices flowing, and I wrote this poem. It's called uh, "Beyond Comfort Zone of Love." Your ability to be a warrioress is integral to being my mistress, and the fact that you have cried is part of being my bride. And although comfort is current fashion, I long for your endless passion, for you have made me realize that love is not a compromise, which keeps us from getting wise. And as we start another year, I embrace your weakness without fear, for yours is a sacred beauty that makes my devotion grateful duty. I accept from Lord above for right to your velvet glove. I wear in pursuit of bliss. I experience at your every kiss. For ours is a relationship eternal, though our mutual lust seems infernal. Uh, for, for, for to you my soul's dedicated, our connection was divinely fated. So that's that's basically where I'm at in my romantic poetry at the moment. But welcome, Vickie Jo. How are you today?
Well, I'm really glad. I just love being on podcasts.
Well, great. We'll make the most of it.
I just want to be on two or three a week for a long time.
Well, you have a book now, so that's something to promote, and that gives you legitimacy, and it's a lot better. It's a lot easier to get on podcasts if you have a book than if you don't. So, congrats. So why don't we start with that? Tell me about the creative process and how your book came about, how you thought about writing a book, and how you actually like got the determination and the persistence to actually finish the book.
Well, it started out when I was in seventh grade. I have had the desire to write a book that whole time, but I guess I had to go through all of the experiences to put in it first. Um,
Right.
I was encouraged by my son to write it. Um, I think he told me that it would heal my trauma. Somewhere along the line, I did get that idea. And it took me about 2 years, but about 6 months I didn't write. And I finished it because of my son, too, because he asked me, if I had a deadline. It's like, when are you going to get this done? And so I planned on getting it done a couple of weeks before I went to visit my son and his family. And I got it done a couple of weeks earlier than what was planned. So that's how that went. And then one thing I really think I should add is it was unbelievable how God helped me. Well, first of all, through everything that was in the book, but the writing process itself. Um, I would have thought that I would have struggled so hard writing all that stuff. And I was also shocked that he gave me a style of writing. I don't read, I don't hardly ever write, um, but that I was um, so pleased with the gift that he gave me to be able to use the words the way that I did, and how he reminded me of every single little teeny detail that I could describe what happened in such realistic terms.
Well, that's fantastic, and I'm unfortunately I didn't get a chance to read the book yet, but I'm going to. But so it's basically is it well, there's memoir, which is like a portion of one's life, and then there's autobiography, which is sort of like the overall view of one's life that one writes. So would you say my Sanity Quest is a memoir, or is it a autobiography?
It's a memoir self-help book
Oh, okay.
because the after all the trauma, I share my accomplishments to show that you can still have problems and challenges, and you can still succeed at things, and then you can also be well. And I put a section in there to the best of my knowledge of different ways to stay mentally well in there.
Uh, wow. So, uh, yeah, I'm sort of in the same situation. I wrote a book about my a memoir about my experiences when I first had my psychotic break, and went from successful Ivy League student to mental patient within a week, and I was put in a mental hospital and everything. And so basically, I wrote about what happened at Dartmouth, and my editor said, we can't leave your book at the bottom of the pit. With I ended the book by my admittance to my first hospital, and she said we can't leave it here. You have to like write about like getting out of the pit and the things you overcame in your mental health journey. So I'm still struggling with that a little bit. I haven't said anything to my editor for a while, but did you find out? So you say that basically God helped you out and like gave you the inspiration and the ability to write about your experiences that
No, sorry.
no, go on.
I'm pretty sure that my son is the one that gave me the inspiration. I'm sure that God was working through my son because he loves him so much too. But I had heard little things. He has a podcast, and I would listen to PTSD and trauma and healing and all that stuff. And so I started writing the book just to write it, and discovered that I could actually do it. And um, it ended up really being a really good way of healing me. I'm not the same person that I was before. I have a cleared out mind, so I don't have intrusive thoughts from the past. It was awful to live that way. And I just feel like God said, "Here, this is how you get rid of it." I just feel like I dumped it all out, and I'm a different person. I'm dealing through with some anger about what has happened to me, after writing it all down and going through all of it, even though I didn't have any difficulty writing except for my relationship with my mom, which went back and forth and was very hard up to the very end. But what can I say? The whole entire book is about how God was with me through all of that.
Right, that's a great story, and So I and it's great that you have your son to inspire you and to keep you motivated to write the whole book. Right now, when you first started to write it, did you do it basically as a therapeutic situation, or did you plan on always publishing it?
Oh, I planned on publishing it. I just didn't know that I was going to be able to. Like I said, um, God gave me God gave me the ability to choose words and make it interesting and draw people in. And I was so excited that I could actually do that. I was listening to him. Actually, I couldn't have written the book or do anything in my entire life without him.
Right.
And
So
I just kept on asking him what he wanted me to write about. Um, we'd sit down like a few days in advance, and I would pray to him about subjects, and I would write myself um, assignments. So
wow. So that shows great self discipline. I guess that self discipline has helped you in your mental health journey too, right? Especially when you were probably at your lowest.
yeah, it was low from the beginning. It was really low. The first 12 years of my life were full of violence and unpredictable trauma and the stuff that I watched my dad try to kill my mother over and over. I'm pretty positive I had PTSD from that.
Right. Well,
I don't know if
that's
I answered.
no. I was just saying. You know, your determination to get the book done, and your faith in God, and your feeling that God has been with you all the time must have been like very. I mean, you're probably going through some horrific things with your parents and everything, but your faith in God seems to have been the rock upon which you built your life, right?
Right. And he reminds me in the morning. I spend a lot of time in Psalms, and I literally reread almost the same stuff every morning because he tells me that he took me out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and he set my feet upon a rock and established my goings.
And that's the psalm, right?
It's a psalm.
Do you know which one, or do
No,
you know offhand?
it's in my Bible right behind me.
Oh well, never mind. It's the important thing is the quote, and I know that quote. He put me in the miry pit, and then he pulled me out and like put me on a solid rock. So,
No, he didn't put me there, did he?
well, I think your circumstances put you there,
I
and but
think my
I think the circumstances put you there, and then he pulled you. Your faith in him let him pull you out of those circumstances.
I'll tell you what amazing job he did um, keeping me from drowning in all that miry clay. No, that's not exactly the way I wanted to put it. I think that it is literally a miracle that I have never broken a bone, that I have never become a drug addict, that I have never become an alcoholic. All through all that, I wish that I wouldn't have been diagnosed with a mental illness when I took a dive off a cliff and hit my head and should have gone to the doctor instead. But I mean that really upsets me and I'm trying to deal with that. But then I think about, oh my goodness, if I wouldn't have been through all that, then I wouldn't have anything to say to help anybody.
Well,
Which
your desire to help people is like very admirable, and I think that's one of the focuses of the book, right? Is not only to tell your story, but also to like give solutions and help people understand how to get out of the clay they're in.
right, and to let them know that there is somebody. who has had these yucky experiences. Oh, I went through that too. When you know that there's one other thing that I remember about why I wrote this book. Um, my son was a part of a book called Walk with Warriors, and the author of that book, she told me, I took a class from her, and she said, think about, imagine somebody that is waiting to hear your story, and they are sitting on the steps right outside your door, and they need you to finish it because they need to read it so that you can help them. Who wants to hear your story?
Well, you're inspiring me right now to get my book finished, Vicky. It's because I've just been putting it off and everything, but what you just said like really struck me. I mean, people need my book just like they need your book, and it's like, and I've just been like remiss in my duty to my future readers by not finishing the book. So, thank you very much for that. I think it's a motivational idea that's going to be very helpful. Uh, so do so you said that the book is your experiences and also how to like how to help people get out of their situation. But so do you have like any experiences that really stand out that where I don't want you to like I don't want to re-traumatize you, but I meant like you told me that you had a diving accident and basically well you needed a doctor because you had a concussion. They put you in a mental hospital.
Yeah, I was diving with some friends. We were floating down the river and stopped to dive. And then I guess I was in too shallow of water. I must have slightly blacked out for a short time because I could see flashes of light. And I got up out of the water and I got back on my tube and went down the river. And not a soul had a clue. How could they? How could anybody know, right? So um, eventually they took me home. My friends took me home, and I went in the house, and I'm positive my mom knew something was wrong right away because I usually talk nonstop. I love talking. And I wasn't saying a word, but she didn't know my head was all full and tangled of stuff, and I could kind of think, but I couldn't get out my mouth because I couldn't speak. And I couldn't tell her. I wasn't able to tell anybody for a really long time. As a matter of fact, she didn't even find out until she was almost in the grave.
Wow.
But our
About the diving accident you're talking about, right?
yeah, but my relationship with my mom has just been not good all the time, and up until the very end. And but yeah, so I went in. So I was in the house after the diving thing, and she wanted me to go to bed in my room, and she made me a hamburger, brought me a hamburger, closed the door, and then she got on the phone for a long time. And it wasn't too long, I don't know how many days. I was on my way to St. Cloud Hospital, went there a couple of times. Then I went into a state hospital where I was pretty much left. I was 17, put on a crap load of medications. I wasn't functioning good. It was not good. I was treated horribly. I was pushed to the floor by two men who had needles put in my butt and thrown in the seclusion room and locked the door. And my mom wouldn't call, and she didn't come and visit but once. And that's how the whole thing started. And they somehow diagnosed me, and that stupid label has been stuck on my head all my life until I finished writing this book. And I realized I'm not the lie, I'm not the abuse, and I'm not the mental illness.
Right.
My true identity lies in Christ.
Absolutely. I can understand that I well you said that you've had like through your history you've had like 23 different diagnoses, right? Something
Well,
some
I
kind
don't remember exactly how many there are, but I put a list in my book. And I tell my psychiatrist, so how can you call me this when I've been this, and this? Well, like my friend who did the foreword in my book, she calls it the mental health flavor of the month.
Right.
Yeah, well, it isn't really funny how they re-diagnose you when you get into a hospital, and then other people use that diagnosis and say that's what you are. Not funny.
Well, I don't want to condemn psychiatry in general, but there are a lot of people, a lot of doctors who, you know, I won't call them bad, but they're misdirected, and and I mean, ultimately, if anyone goes to a psychiatrist and tells this story, they're going to be able to find a label to put on him or her, and that's one of the weaknesses of modern psychiatry is that they become like so fat and they've become so obsessed with diagnoses that they stop seeing people as as people and they just see them as symptoms.
Well, they can't do their job, and their job is to prescribe medication. So, what is the point in going seeing a psychiatrist? Because you're more than, I mean, 99 chances out of 100 and whatever, you are going to leave there with a pill. And that's what
Right.
psychiatrists do. They prescribe pills. That's what they do. That's their job. So if you're going to go in there, and can I just say something?
Sure.
I know people that go in to see the psychiatrist and they give them a pill. Then they go back and they tell them something else that's bothering them. When actually, Dale, it is a symptom or a problem from a pill that they're already taking. I know somebody who had 30 pills, showed me 30 pills in his hand. And that's the same doctor, because you know what I'm saying? It's like this pill causes this symptom and that interacts with that. Doesn't
It's
happen.
a whole witch's brew of psychotropic medications, and I agree with you, Vicky. It's just like, but and this is another thing that I often talk about is that, I'm not going to condemn the psychiatric field because I think that most doctors are sincerely motivated to try to help people, but they've like given their authority and their judgment over to the big pharmas to such a degree that they become pawns of big pharma, and therefore, I mean, one thing that I talk about is the fact that there's so many new. I mean, every week it seems there's a new medication coming out for mental illness. And it's like there's no way the doctors can keep up with them because they're being produced so quickly, and therefore they have to follow big pharma's dosing recommendations, even though in a lot of cases those dosing regimens are incorrect. And but the fact that I mean, I was very fortunate in that I was in a program for 5 years where I had a doctor who would see me for 45 minutes 3 times a week. And that basically never happens anymore because, as you say, the role of psychiatrists has become just to give the pills. And it's a real crime because the whole basis of psychiatry has become pill based rather than healing based.
I am really, really blessed. My psychiatrist, I'm barely on any medication at all. As a matter of fact, she's weaning me off of one so that I'm actually only going to be taking one instead of two because they're both mood stabilizers. And we're just doing it extremely slowly. I mean, every 2 months, a little adjustment and stuff like that to make sure that I'm doing good, along the way. And I just wanted to add right here that in my book, I have a plan of action. And part of that plan of action includes um, professionals that are in my life to help me to just to overlook to see, Vicky's still doing good, or can you see that, maybe she has starting to have a little bit of a problem. They kind of, I call them, what do I call them? I have right here. um, wellness witnesses. I'm
Okay,
gonna
that's a very good one.
I'm gonna have T-shirts made in my Sanity Quest store that say wellness witnesses. These two, I have more than two wellness witnesses. One is my case manager, and the other one is my nurse who fills my medications every week. And I don't need these people. I'm not on a commitment. I voluntarily asked if they would be in my life. So 2 times a week, I have my case manager one time, and she's just a blast, and so is my nurse. We love each other, and they can see every week when I come in that they're witnessing my wellness.
That's a
So
beautiful concept.
it, I decided that I wanted to have certain people from certain places in my life, and then along comes the ones that think I'm sick because they think that I'm acting a certain way that I used to and that I must be getting sick. And that's really scary, actually. It's
Right.
very scary. I think it would be horrifying to go back into a psychiatric hospital where I don't know why people think people get well in those places. And I'm sure that there are some places and some people out there. I don't know who they are. All I know is that it isn't a it isn't a wellness situation for me. I'm in such bad shape when I come out that it takes me 6 months or longer just to feel like part of myself again.
Right. Well, I here in Hackensack, we have like an excellent mental wing. It's called Six St. John, and I've been there like 14 times. And they get they really try, and they conscientiously try to help people and heal people. They have group sessions, they have games, and they keep people occupied, and they have pretty good food. And so I, I've been very I've been very fortunate in a lot of ways that I've how my illness has played out. But um, I love that wellness witness. That's a brilliant concept. And the other thing you mentioned is so you're planning on really becoming an entrepreneur behind this. You were talking about a Sanity Quest store, right?
Well, that's just a little store that I have on my website. If somebody wants to buy a T-shirt or a mug or something, it's not like I'm not
Uh,
ever thinking it's going to be like a profitable business. It's just something on my website. My website is mainly about public speaking and my book because I speak from my book. So I have both on there.
So
Yeah,
just to give people an idea, the website is VickieJo.com, right? That's VickieJo.com, right?
that's right.
And I don't know if you know the origin of the word Joe, but Joe means sweetheart. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, my middle name is Joe. My daughter's middle name is Joe. My mom's middle name was Joan. Um,
But,
and my son's little girl's middle name is Joanne. So,
okay. Well,
and
I just want.
then we got a dog named Jojo.
Well,
We had a dog named Jojo.
seems to be a running theme in your life, Vicky. But I just wanted to let you know, in case you didn't, that Joe, the meaning of the word J-O is sweetheart.
Oh, I must be a sweetheart in the middle, right? My middle name.
You're an angelic sweetheart, Vicky. But so um, so basically, why don't you like run us through your history a little bit? I mean, you said you had this diving accident, and that resulted in you being put in a mental hospital.
Yeah, that happened when I was 17. There's a
And was there like a complete change of personality after the diving? incident? Because
Evidently, I was put in a psych hospital.
right. But what do you think? Did I mean when you couldn't talk? What was your thought process going through?
The only thing I could think of is I wish I could talk.
Right.
I can't talk. I can't.
So they so basically you were diagnosed as bipolar or manic depression, right?
Yeah, I don't know where they get it. I still don't understand how I can even have close to a bipolar um, diagnosis, because even though the thing about it is a mood swings from really high to really low, and I don't have lows. I've never had depression or suicidal thoughts. Um, Evidently, according to my psychiatrist, it only takes one manic episode. It could be just this tiny little manic episode. Then you can get labeled with it. I know of 3 people that have it. My friend from the bipolar place, and Kevin Hines and myself, we all 3 have, now it's changed into bipolar 1. We all 3 have the same thing. But I've read Kevin's book, and I've talked to this other guy and myself, and every single symptom is completely different. And they just label it by using a manic episode. And dear God, what does that mean anyway? I tell you, I have been accused of having manic episodes from all the way from feeling angry to not sleeping, to whatever. How do they do that? But I just don't know.
Well, that brings up a point that is very interesting to me. Is you know the doctors like give out these labels very easily, but for the person who gets the label, it sticks with you for a lifetime. And it's like, I mean, I am dealing with that with my schizophrenia, which I'm convinced more and more was drug induced rather than actual schizophrenia. But on the other hand, I do take my medication, and I'm not going to ever stop my medication. So that sort of like begs the question. But the fact is that once you get a label, and it used to be psychiatrists were very reluctant to tell you what your diagnosis was for this very reason. But now everybody seems to know their diagnosis, and they just like use it either as an excuse or a shield against living a quote normal life. And they say, well, I can't do this because I have schizophrenia, and I think that's part of recovery is the desire to like grow out of your label. But people have it as long as they know your diagnosis, and they can use your label against them.
Well, what I hate, and I meant, and I touched on this earlier, is I can be doing the same things as anybody else would be doing. Like sometimes when I get really excited about something, or if I get really mad about something, I talk like 3 times faster than normal. But did you know that it is a symptom of manic depression, bipolar, or whatever? It's constituted as a manic episode when a person with that label speaks fast like that.
Right.
I just got done writing some content for my new mentor, Sean Douglas, and he had
Okay.
me write on stigma, myths, and misconceptions about mental illness, and I wrote a bunch of that stuff down. It is wrong. I think they're lies. I don't understand how anybody can get. I was angry in front of my case manager, and she shoved it down my throat. You're not doing good. You're sick. You're going to end up in a hospital. You, Vicki, are not doing good. I mean, this is like right in front of my friend. And, it's like, what are you trying to get me sick? Are you trying to make me sick? You're taking a normal emotion and, hey, let's get serious here. I'm not a flail my hands, get like this, type person. When I get mad, it's just my mouth. I don't even move my gestures hardly even move, right? And I just think that it is a royal ripoff. And I seriously, almost every day, like if I hear a knock or something, I'm thinking, oh my God, somebody called the police again on me for absolutely no friggin' reason. And
But that's what I'm talking about. Once you get the label, then people are ready to jump on the label and say that you're different or you have an illness and everything. And it's like to be able to like get beyond that and to be able to say I know myself. I mean, this is obviously what you did too. Is I know myself well enough and I'm self-aware enough that I know that these labels aren't relevant. I mean. Uh, and I understand. People used to say uh, to me, "You're the sanest person I know, Dale." I'd say, "See me without my medication." So even that process, that thought process was like part of I'm sick, and I don't want to wear this story out, but I tell it basically every week. But my first doctor in the hospital after Dartmouth told me, I'd say, "What's wrong with me?" And said, "Well, if you broke your leg, you come to the hospital, right?" I'd say, "Yes." And he says, "Well, you broke your brain." And not only did that impose like great guilt for like all the drugs and all the ways that I felt I broke my brain, but also stigmatized me in my own mind for the next 30 years that I couldn't get better because my brain was broken and it would never heal. But more and more modern science is proving that the idea of a broken brain is impossible.
it's impossible to prove mental illness. Did you know that? They
You
can't
would
prove
tell
it.
me.
They can't prove it by anything in your brain. They can look in your brain. They can't prove anything. The only thing that they can do, and I know this for a fact, um, there's a book called the DSM-5, and it is a diagnostic manual for mental illnesses. To get an illness listed in there, there has to be a certain sets of behavior. So these, I heard of this. How do they come? They take, like, for instance, 5 behaviors, and if you have two, that's what you got. So it's all on behavior, and the diagnoses were 297. I was the awareness warrior for the column in our local newspaper, and I did some studying. I keep talking about this and know for a fact that I really need to go back to that manual and see how many diagnoses there are now. They just keep pulling these behaviors. I mean, little kids and stuff like, and that's how they get it, is a behavior. And I do remember going on the Sanford website about 7, 8 years ago, and I wish that I could remember exactly what it said. But it's basically that there's no proof. There's no proof of proving it. And years ago, my kids both told me, Mom, you don't have bipolar because it doesn't even exist. Well, I'll tell you, since I got done writing my book and off and on before that, I didn't believe it either. And like whether or not it's actually there, is I don't want to associate with it. I want to associate with being well, with praising myself, with becoming, doing my desires. I'm trying to build a speaking career, and that defies all of the laws of being on disability. It defies all the laws of being sick and not, because if I was truly sick, I wouldn't be able to do anything. I wouldn't have all this work that I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 months to promote my career so I can go out and share my story. And I'm overcoming things. I'm working on things for my health, for my physical health, for my mental health, so that I can be healthy. I walk around thanking God for my sound mind. He did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And I have a sound mind, you know. And if I miss a couple nights sleep because I can't sleep or the darn or whatever, I just tell myself I just missed a couple of nights sleep. I have a sound mind. I'm doing good. I'm focusing on wellness. I'm focusing on keeping people in my life that are keeping me well, that are appreciating me, encouraging me, and I'm not focusing on any label that some man decided because of some behavior. They had to have some kind of a reason, Dale, to put me in that hospital. They had to have some kind of a like so.
I think you make a very good point about, you know, doctors diagnose behavior rather than like chemical. I was always taught that I had a chemical imbalance in my brain and that's why I needed medication. That my dopamine had to be regulated, blah blah blah. But it was really my behavior that like really got me in trouble because, uh, uh well. Schizophrenia I mean, you said that but every case of bipolar that you come across is different from yours, and I think it's the same way with schizophrenia. But I never hallucinated. I never, and I would get maybe disorganized thinking a little bit, but basically it was my God delusion that really got me in trouble. So, uh, consequently, the the behavior that I manifested would be, I would like I would go without sleep and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that I wasn't sick because I think I was, but on the other hand, to be judged by your behavior rather than but judged by, the state of your soul, I think is a weakness.
I I do a lot of talking in my book about advocating for yourself. I don't really think that a lot of people know that just because you go in to see a psychiatrist or any kind of doctor, if they tell you that they want you to take this particular medication, you don't have to. It's your choice. You can say, um, well, please take the time to let me know what the interactions are with other medications. What are the symptoms? What kind of things am I going to have to possibly be dealing with? No, that doesn't sound good to me. Do you have another choice? You do not have to. Uh, they want me to take averastatin for my cholesterol. I don't take it. I told them I don't want to take it. I mean, unless you're under a mental health commitment, you have a choice.
Right. Well, that's the thing. A lot of, uh, I mean, were you ever committed, or was it all voluntary, or what?
No, I've been committed. Oh, a lot of times. I'm sorry, but I have a case manager that's really not nice. I didn't have her last time, but without really smashing my case manager, I guess the biggest part of the problem is when I go into a hospital, evidently I tell them that I am not going to agree to take medication. And that must be like when I first go in, because I don't remember, because I tell them I'm not going to comply with what you want. Then they put me on a commitment. And those suckers last for like 6 months or a year, and then you got to have all these workers coming into your house all the time. But
Right.
Dale, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've had some delusions, and that's something else that really makes me mad. I have somebody in my family who tells other people that I've had all these hallucinations. They're delusions, and that I have different diagnoses. I just wish that he would stop.
Right.
Just stop. I honest to God believe after all that I've been through and writing this book and all the prayers that I honestly believe, whether or not anybody else believes it, I believe that I had so much trauma and it was PTSD. I have been diagnosed with it. I honest to God believe. And the other problem has been the medications, especially lithium. I've been on it since I was 17. That medication is one of the touchiest medications. The restrictions, food, sun, ibuprofen, a million things. It's so touchy. And even a bladder infection will take away the how well the lithium works. I've been to
God.
hospitals because I had a bladder infection, but the lithium fluctuates so easily. There's a very fine line between therapeutic and toxic.
Right.
And so when it's off a little bit, it triggers it triggers problems. So, sometimes it's hard to understand because like this is a symptom of the medication and it's also a symptom of why you're taking it. It's very very confusing, but at any rate my blessed psychiatrist is extremely slowly weaning me off. We'll see how far we get or if we go all the way with it.
I'm in the same situation, and I'm at uh, in the last 2.5 years, I've gone from 30 milligrams of my psychotic down to antipsychotic down to 10 milligrams, and I'm comfortable there. And when I went lower, I started having trouble with my sister, and people were saying that I was going off the deep end and everything. So I agreed to like take it back up to 10 milligrams a day instead of 15 every 2 days. But uh, it's and the fact people say antipsychotic medications aren't addictive, and that's totally wrong because they are. Because they might not be addictive in like the way that people think of heroin as being addictive, and that you have to have your hit every day, but they are addictive in that the way they like change the neurotransmitters in your brain, and then if you stop them, your brain becomes so used to the new pathways and everything that if you stop the medications, then your brain goes haywire. So
Well, I found out that lithium alters your state of consciousness and that it controls the sodium and potassium levels in your brain. And so
okay,
I spoke to my psychiatrist about that. I said, "What's going to happen when you start slowly lowering this?" She's pretty confident that everything's going to be okay. And since I have my wellness warriors, and she's one of my wellness warriors too, um, it's going to be pretty easy for me to tell because I'm extremely aware. But
right,
it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to believe that because I'm talking fast, I need to go back on my lithium.
right. Well, so why don't you tell me about your speaking career? Has it have you like have you had crowds? Are you just doing podcasts or what? And who would you like to? I mean, do you have any like TV shows or anything that you have dreams of being on to tell your story, like Oprah or Marie Forleo or someone like that? Or do you have any of those dreams?
Um, I just have, I just have dreams of giving, speaking to people. I, I guess, I, I guess that I would be totally very, very happy to be able to be off disability. It's very difficult to get off, but that's what I'm shooting for. And so I'm going
And
for
so
a
I'm
double
going.
goal.
Right,
um,
right.
my speaking right now, I have had to stop for a couple of months because of my surgical foot. I've had to do some more things about that. But when I started, I have a friend. She actually is the person in town here that gave me my mental health advocate of the year award. She believes in me, and she called the police department. Police department requested a video of my experiences with mental health crises, so I was able to do that, and they are so grateful. I get phone calls from the captain, and yeah, they asked for my book in their library. So I haven't made any money yet. So I went to the fire department, and they gave me their beautiful fire department coin and a patch, and asked for a pile of PTSD treatments I brought, and just the feeling of being needed and being and having valuable things to share with them. Um, and
And
I've done
appreciated too.
well. It's kind of interesting. I call it on the other side of the cuffs because the cops have cuffed me a couple times to take me, and now they're requesting my knowledge, and
Right.
it's just yeah. So it's a very good thing. Right now, I'm in the process of following up on 20 um, marketing um, cards that I sent out. I've written letters. I've got it going on over here. I've got paper with my logo and color on it. I've typed up beautiful letters. I'm sending them out. I'm working on doing speeches for the price of transportation to get myself out there so people can hear me, and hopefully somebody will say, "Did you hear what she said? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. We have got to tell such and such a person, somebody, they've got to have her. I need to get that buzz going."
Right.
And I will say it again, God is on my side. He's helping me with this too. That's how I know I should keep going, because first of all, I got a business coach from our local company for free, and he works with me. And then I got a public speaking coach who actually goes out and makes a lot of money speaking. He meets with me once in a while. He won't take any money. And the other day, I stumbled across a public speaking mentor as a friend of my son. And these guys have all got me hopping. I've got assignments. And it's getting, even though it's only been a few months, they say speaking career takes 2 to 4 years. I don't know, but it's kind of starting to feel a little real.
Well, that's tremendous, Vicky. Congratulations. I came across another opportunity recently, and I sort of like have put my speaking and and coaching business on the back burner. But once again, you're inspiring me to like get back to where I really want to be instead of and I'm my new job is great, and it's like service. It's like teaching financial literacy and helping people with financial problems. But my real first calling, well, my first calling is my poetry. My next calling is my coaching and helping the families with mental illness situations in them. So uh, and that's what my speaking and podcast career is based upon, is my coaching. So uh, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I admire the fact that you don't give up and you just keep pressing forward. And let me just give a shout out to Robert Brooker, who's here every week and is a faithful follower of the show. And thank you for your patronage, Robert. I really appreciate it. And also to Adam, who's also working. And I'm going to talk about to Adam, the head of the Mental Health Warriors, about having you as the awareness warrior, Vicky, because I think you would be a very valuable addition to our team.
Yeah, I have a feeling that could happen. Then I wouldn't have to be responsible for all of the work that goes along with starting it, you know? I could just step right in and do it, right?
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
but I'll definitely recommend you. But okay, so we have about like a little less than 5 minutes left. So let me give people your information again. The book is called My Sanity Quest: Tears, Trials, and Triumphs by Vickie Jo, Vickie, Joe, and her website is vickiejo.com. So if you would like to have Vickie Jo speak it to your group or something, I'm sure she would be happy to like get say hear from you, and as I said, I haven't had a chance to read the book yet, but I'm looking forward to reading it, and I'm also looking forward to the mental health tips that you give because I'm sure they're very insightful and inspirational and motivating. So, do you have anything you want to like leave us with, or any wrap up thoughts or ideas?
Yes. No matter what you're going through, no matter how trivial it may think you might it seem to somebody else, find a warm line, find a crisis line, find a friend, find somebody. You're worth talking about. You have a need. It might seem like you might think it's like nothing to somebody else, so why even bother? Please speak up and share. Don't keep things inside, because that is one of the reasons why I was not well, is because I kept everything bottled up. Advocate for yourself, stand up. All somebody can say is no, or I can't, or whatever. But just use that as another reason to try to reach out again.
Well, you're a beautiful person, Vickie Jo, and thank you very much for joining me today. I hope everybody's enjoyed this show. I think it's getting some good reviews already, and I just like to say thank you for joining me every week, with the people who have. And if you're just discovering the show for the first time, you can go to YouTube, MH Warrior TV, and see previous broadcasts, not only of my show, but of the entire Mental Health Warrior team. And we're an international advocacy and mental health improvement platform, and I appreciate everybody coming. And Vickie, if you'll stay on after this, we can talk a little bit. But why don't I'll just say thank you very much for your strength, your determination, your persistence, your creativity, and your faith in God, Vickie, because it's very inspiring.
You're welcome.
And I think with that, we're almost at an hour, and I hope everybody enjoys the show and have a great day.